Good evening. A warm welcome to the opening week special reading with Nisha JamVwal at the 6th V anniversary celebrations. It is not one but two celebrations this evening as Nisha takes stage as a poet. It is that beautiful moment in time when a person who has written all her life decides to express her presence as a poet, bringing together myriad streams of creativity in her and merging them into poetry. Nisha has graced our We Literary Sessions as a guest of honor and special guest earlier, and today it's a real pleasure to welcome her as a poet. This one goes to you, Nisha. She walks in to confetti showers and warm cheers in praise of her winsome work. Oh, how she wins over hearts. You would think she has a magic wand, and that she does. It's her two gifted hands making ceaseless magic dawn to dusk, trails of knowledge and caring and sharing in ways too beautiful and known only to her. She who cares deeply for the world around, she who adds extra hours to the day unbound. Nisha JamVwal, welcome. Before I hand it to you, a very brief introduction. Columnist, author, social activist, equal rights crusader, brand consultant, interiors architect and home stylist, accessibility, branding, luxury, interiors, architecture, contemporary Indian art and design. She blends seamlessly all these, converting her passion for the creative and visual arts into her work where all synergize seamlessly. Nisha authors 6 columns and does television shows on design. In Nisha, you find adversity has become an ally, where her inspiring story that met with challenging rapids even drew the attention of international best-selling author Lord Jeffrey Archer, so that he has chronicled her life story in And Thereby Hangs a Tale, where she is called by her real name. She is also a crafts crusader and works to save our traditional heritage. She has authored 2 books on preserving, promoting, and encouraging traditional Indian craft. As a student leader from the Delhi University, Nisha has blazed a trail as the first woman to win in that role and carved a trajectory of a trailblazer that typifies Nisha. Nisha, please start with a poem of yours and then we'll take it on from there. Warm
Thank
welcome.
you, Smeetha. I just want to say a warm welcome to everyone who's present here today and all Facebook friends and fans. You make the world more inspiring with your adoration, love, letters, messages. Thank you. I also want to say a very warm, note of gratitude to Smeetha Bhoumik, who just introduced me. There are some women who empower women, and she's one of them. She runs a Women Achievers group on Facebook. Smeetha, you are, for me, an inspiration and a motivation in my journey of poetry. So I started writing poetry, believe it or not, before I could actually speak. And when I started tying sentences in together, on the margins of my storybooks, Smeetha, I would be writing, baby poems. And I actually have copies of those, which I'm going to share with you when we meet in the flesh. I hope you're going to do this very soon in the flesh at Tidal Waves, Smeetha's favorite bookshop. Am I right? Am I right, Smeetha? It's your favorite bookshop? You're on mute, Smeetha.
Yeah, it is a very favorite bookshop.
Yes. So I hope we are going to do this live soon
Yeah, planning to.
I must say that ever since you've graced my life with your warmth, your sunshine, your light, your effulgence, I have actually gained more buoyancy in my journey of poetry. So the whole world knows me as a writer, but it is you who I first, um, unveiled my poetic side to. And with your encouragement, I want to present it to the world. So there's a little teaser. I'm going to write a very recent, I'm going to read a very recent poem of mine. And while vanity exists in me, I'm going to, take the plunge and wear my specs. So here we go. It's about, the trajectory we take in life, which has, currently one is seeing a lot of turmoil, anxiety, and this poem comes out of the, surviving and living in a very transactional city, and sometimes superficial, world. So I'm going to read this poem, which is recent. Smeetha, you've not heard it before. Coming out of it stronger in the light, sparkle after storms, tougher sunshine, nimble bright. Rare are those that care, stones galore, diamonds rare. Why look everywhere? The stars, let's let go. Frail, crackling slate, hollow, flimsy. Go deeper into the night, out on a limb, into flight, beyond the empty noise. Fly conscious, hear my voice, the voice of silence, the voice of light, the sound of stillness. If you look life squarely in its eye, you see a pastiche of low and high. Troubles, betrayal, pain, angst, a school of wisdom this is. Fruition, the sky's evolution with every change, bad or good, on life's shooting range. Stagnancy, the fruit of all that is good, a life of comfort where you ideally stood. I jumped the hurdles up and out, some courage and strength you ideally should take life on. Experience, soar, dive deep within, absorb and hone. You are with you. Your greatest strength, you. And those few rare ones you choose in all the noise and all the din, spare time for life's greatest gift of life. Not muddle away in crowds and herds. Herds also rans, stagnant waters. Turbid among unclear Joneses. I'm better. They fought and fraught. Every shining thing for which they fought. Every gift grabbed and sought. Everything betterer and bigger caught. Life frittered away in groups, carbon copies, moving in noisy troops. A life spared, twirling tricks to please, to fit into the pack. Dare to be different, dare to be alone. You're better off. Journey on, seek and find. Seek unaided, discover you, beyond, away, unaccompanied by another's mind's inspiration and light. Light is only quiet, sometimes a lonely flight. You are alone when you seek. Move away from the horde and the din.
Applause, Nisha. That is so beautiful. And I especially like those lines. The entire thing is beautiful, but you said the voice of light and the sound of silk and the voice of silence. That's so beautiful. And you make the transactional city itself sound, more beautiful maybe than it is. It's
Thank you.
very, very
All the
amazing
poems I
thing.
write are from my own life's experiences and what I go through at that particular moment or
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, all my poetry comes to me at 2 and 3 in the morning. and I get up hungover, because if I don't catch hold of it like a falling
Yeah.
star,
Yeah.
it goes away and I can't recall
Right.
it in the morning. Yeah.
Absolutely. We lose so many poems because we can't catch it in time, you know. By the time
Yes.
we get down to the pen and paper, it's already moved away. So it's
Gone.
very
Exactly.
essential, yeah. So a poet or a writer needs to keep that little chit in the pocket with a pen
Yes.
all the time.
Absolutely. That's an insight you've just given us all.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so next, there's something which has already always intrigued me about you. So I'm going to shoot this out to you. Nisha, it will help greatly if you tell us how you add hours to the day when there seems to be only 24. So I was trying to picture a typical day of yours. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the picture that emerged. So bear with me while I go through it. So Nisha gets up at 4:30, gets some tea, meditates, looks at a schedule, starts writing for one of her columns, breakfasts by 7:30, just some orange juice maybe, takes a call and confirms that she is reaching a space for interior design work 10 a.m. sharp, wraps it up by 12:20 or so, and is off to lunch with an editor. Gallops across town after that to meet artisans. By 7 p.m., she is ready to dash to a birthday party and then off to dinner with the family. Meanwhile, an article with a deadline awaits, so maybe some midnight oil she burns. Let me ask the lady herself, because the gym trip and other important stuff haven't even figured here. So, Nisha, if you could throw some light into how you do it.
So, Smeetha, I'm so sorry that I have to disillusion you. Smeetha, you're not wrong about the 4:30. I do get up, but it's normally because I'm having anxiety about lots of things to do. So I answer messages, and I think lots of my friends keep their phone on silent because I'm messaging and finishing all the follow-ups I have to do at 4 and 5. Not because of something as altruistic and magical as responsibility and schedule, but because of anxiety. So, so pretty pictures exist in books, but in reality, there is no schedule for me. I go with the flow and with what's happening at hand. And the only reason I can fit everything in is because I seldom say no to many things. I want to do everything within this life. And during COVID, when I thought that any one of us could pop it, I didn't have any regrets. I really thought I'd done pretty much everything I wanted to do, except write my own story, which is what I want to do now. But I must tell you, Smeetha, I do whatever comes at hand. So if I'm in a car, I could be writing an article on an iPhone. And yes, there are many days I finish my articles in the morning. Believe it or not, I go back to sleep for an hour or two,
Sure.
around 8 or 9. And then I again get up and restart the day. And I try to fit in lunch and teas with my huge gang of friends who I love very, very much.
Yeah.
So I try not to, ever tell a friend, hey, I'm too busy. I try not to tell people who I care for that I'm not busy. I mean, I am busy. I try to eke in most people that matter in my life, and quite a few people do. And I work around all that. So there's no regimented schedule. So if artisans or craftsmen are in town, I'll make time and meet them. Very few are in Bombay, Smeetha. They come from Bastar, they come from Orissa, they come from Calcutta with Kantha work. So the stone craftsmen come from Jaipur. So it's not every day that I meet them. It's maybe once or twice, in a fortnight. My writing is very sporadic. It happens in cars, in planes. Once an editor called me, it was snowing in the Alps. And I found a kind of a tree where I sat underneath and wrote her article for her. She said, you have a 1 hour deadline. And I did it. As for interior styling, I'm selective about the work I take. I prefer not to take prosaic work. So I do it very picky and choosily. Something that engages me a lot is I do 1 or 2 luxury events a month. It's very exciting because I get a chance to call my friends and bring people together. You've seen that, haven't you, Smeetha?
Yeah.
I love having my friends with me. So it gives me an excuse to not only showcase an excellent world-class brand, but also to meet the people I want to meet regularly. So that's another facet of my life. The philanthropic work I do with some of my lawyers, Gautam Tiwari, Mrinalini Deshmukh, and Abha Singh ji. We have taken lots of, buildings and developers to court to make their properties wheelchair friendly. That's the equal rights that I do. As for women achievers, I run a group of women achievers where I help them network, get work. Through COVID, I also started medical support groups to help people, but we haven't dissolved them, even though COVID today in the newspapers was declared as coming to an end. For the first time, we are reading it in the news.
Right.
But now we are doing other stuff like counseling, kidney transplants, finding doctors, neurologists. So I've created a platform which is a support group for people to survive in what I find. Correct me if I'm wrong. I find Bombay a very high stress city. Though I live in an ivory tower by the, sea, I'm
Yeah.
surrounded by the sea on 3 sides, but still, I still feel that Bombay's vibrations can be very exacting and sometimes transact.
Yes.
So these are the things that give you the succor and the sense of buoyancy, apart from people like you, Smeetha. People like you give me strength and buoyancy. I love you, Smeetha. And and Smeetha, so in a week, I fit most things, but I'm not regimented, I'm not disciplined, and I'm not planned. Everything comes and fits itself into a erratica of words, colors, shapes, people, skies, seas. It's a beautiful erratica of work. It forms a collage in a week. And yes,
I think it's a
very, very late hour.
It's a very beautiful, organic, natural, creative flow, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very organic and you take it as it comes, as you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to tell me, let's do a Zoom at 3 in the morning, I'd be one of your few friends who'd be game. There's no timing. The clock doesn't exist for me, really.
Right. Yeah, that was a beautiful delineation of your day, and I mean, it sounds so natural for you. It sounds so right for you, the way you are. So yeah, great to know that. Okay, then Nisha, you remember the poem you had read out at our last book launch meeting?
Yes.
Letters, wishes, thoughts, words. That really tugged at the heartstrings, and I
Yes.
hope you will read it today, either now or later. Okay, so and then share maybe some more of your poetry, and we'll take on to another subject after that.
Absolutely. So I just want to give a background of this poem. Um, I mean, some of you have read the book by Jeffrey Archer, where my story, is very factually reproduced by Lord Jeffrey Archer. It gives you a vignette of some of the challenges, rapids, and troughs, and all of them are real. None of them have been. In fact, I think they're underplayed, if you ask me. And sometimes I look back and I think, how did I pull it off? How did I pull it off? I feel. And this poem talks about a period when I was saying a farewell to my husband's parents, with whom I shared a very tenuous relationship. On the one hand, I really admired the famous General JamVwal, who led Operation Blue Star. I thought he was grand, tall, handsome, righteous. He'd led an ideal life, and yet he never really, accepted or cared for me too much because I was not a princess. Now, in a world where royalty has no meaning, I'm a feisty young girl, and I never quite understood that. And part of me rebelled, but part of me couldn't help admire him. There was also the mother, you know, of this gorgeous man, this man who I worship, Mr. JamVwal. You know, his mother was also a diva. She was known to be more beautiful than Maharani Gayatri Devi. She had green eyes. She was 5'8". She was stately. She was a columnist with Kashmir Times. They are Kashmiris. They are from the royal family. Beautiful, absolutely, you know, idyllic people who never quite loved or probably even wanted me because I was not a princess. Now that's something we can't change, isn't it, Smeetha? You know, we are born to the families we are born to, and I love, adore, and worship my parents and my family. So that's a kind of dichotomous life to be living. And when I said farewell to them, when they, you know, went to their heavenly abode, ironically, Smeetha, out of the entire family, I was the one, for reasons I won't get into, who had to, you know, sift through their things and give away some things, keep some things, look through, you know, letters and look through personal messages because
This meeting is being recorded.
Because I had to actually, you know, see what was to be rejected and what was to be kept. So I gave you this background because it would explain the poem to you. And I'm going to read it now, specially dedicated to my lovely magnet of all the poets of Bombay. Was delightful to see you all in all this, whatever the excuse. Was delightful to see you in all this, whatever the excuse. Family, getting more and more scarce, is precious and so much fun. All the confusions and opinions and rituals and buzz, maddeningly endearing, tugs at my chest. Looking back, I'm scared of the front. I'm remembering the past, insecure of the run. The loss in this silence. I'm missing everyone. Letters, pictures, thoughts, words. Images dancing in the blur of my eyes. Is it night? Is it light? Is it now? Is it then? Is it past or is it about to be? I'm losing sight of what might be. You never know, you never speak of the ghoul in my heart. I just see it when I'm alone. Letters, pictures, thoughts, words, confusions, opinions, rituals, priests. Bidding farewell, saying goodbye was never easy for me. I just see it when I'm alone. Letters, pictures, thoughts, words, confusions, opinions, rituals, priests. I'm missing my own. Maybe I want them back. Maybe I still hate them. Maybe it's wishful thinking. Maybe I'll never know, is it the past, is it the present? Maybe they look better in the past. From here, it's all memories. Or was it my imagination from the start? Were they real? Were they mine? Did they hate me? They've all gone. Did I love them? Maybe I just wanted to be loved after all. I'll never know, I'll never speak of the ghoul in my heart. Graveyards consuming me, my thoughts in the dark. Are they here? Have they gone? Is it my imagination? Was it all a dream? Did it even happen? Maybe I just wanted to be loved after all. I'll never know, I'll never speak. Letters, pictures, thoughts, words, confusions, opinions, rituals, priests. I'm missing my own.
How awesome is that, Nisha?
Thank you.
It's, you know, touched more at the heartstrings the second time. Oh,
Yes.
were they real? Was it just a dream? Did I love them? And now their memory, they seem better. Gosh.
Yes.
I mean, I distort your words. It's not the sequence, but you know, this lingers in the mind. How real is that?
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
it's beautifully, you know, it's it's true for everybody, right? I mean, this kind
Ab-
of a, yeah,
Absolutely.
amazing.
I think
And
poetry at some level is universal, is it not, Smeetha?
yes,
And when it
yes,
is universal, it's contextual in
it
that
touches
case.
everybody. Yes, yes, absolutely.
It
And I
is a
don't know,
very continuous relationship mostly.
I don't know about others, but to us, you are a princess.
Thank you. Thank you, Smeetha. That is the kindest thing. And thank you so much.
Okay, so I've read many of your columns, and I see you as a keen observer of people, sharing insights on relationships, be it close partner, mother daughter, parent child, and so much more. So, a lot of effort goes into understanding people, the problems they face, and in trying to arrive at the crux of it. You do that. A very difficult task, right? So, what are the challenges you face in this, and do you have a favorite column?
Smita, funnily enough, I don't want to sound, immodest, but I face no challenges. It pours from my heart and it comes out in one shot, and it draws from lots of relationships I have with my parents, with the tiger mom, who's, not always the easiest kind of mom to have, because she's, got aspirations and dreams for me. I'm an only child, so that itself makes me, into a high performance individual with expectations from very high
Yeah,
expectations from parents.
yeah.
I've never been allowed to be laid back, there's always an opinion there from my parents. I've had I've had relationships before where I've been able to understand, challenges. I have friends, lots of them, and every relationship comes with its uh, hoops and cartwheels that you have to,
Right.
undergo. Even as we speak, I'm going through a very, very challenging period with a very close friend. And this afternoon, I met her to have a conversation. And I said to her that, it's not always one way, it can be deviant. I
Hmm.
feel deviant at this moment. Half of me loves you, and half of me absolutely hates you. And it was very difficult for me to come out there and place it on the table like that.
Right.
But hats off to her. She was very gracious about it. The meat of my articles comes from real life situations, from
Mhm.
real life challenges. I have another friend who can drive me mad, with, challenging behavior. So,
Hmm.
so there are things that make me jump those hoops and cartwheels in
Right.
life.
Hmm.
But Ghoom phir ke, it all comes out from my soul in
Hmm.
columns, in poetry, in conversation, in readings, in talks, in motivational. I'm doing a motivational talk for Archana Trust on the 21st. I'm doing a talk tomorrow at Crossword Bookstore for the author, Karan Kurana, I think his name is. I think life for me is genuinely a reproduction of my experiences. So
Hmm.
everything I'm writing or saying or doing comes from real life experiences. So I don't think I've ever had writer's block. I have to be very, very honest with you. And I
Correct.
can't wait to write my own story. Smeetha, the last time we did a poetry reading, if you remember, I broke down.
Yeah.
The reason I haven't been able to belt out my book while I've talked to the publishers is because I'm finding it very difficult to deal with unresolved, um, you know,
Emotions.
situations, experiences I've gone through that still give me a lot of pain and anguish. I need
Okay.
to resolve it because every time I sit down to write, I can't have, a moment of perplexity. So that is
Hmm.
the only challenge I'm going through. But if you ask me to write a book on craft or stone craft or bastar, work or gadwa kam, I can belt out a book immediately. If you ask me to write about relationships, I can belt it out immediately. But if you ask me to write my own story, there are
Hmm.
certain demons I have to overcome as well.
Right. You have to do the resolution inside first to
Absolutely.
be able to, kind of, yeah.
Yes.
And you have written 2 books about the preservation of arts, right?
Absolutely. And of the preservation of crafts, I met craftsmen. I traveled all over India. I was the protege of Roshan Kala Pesi, who was the protege of Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay. So Roshan was the goddess of craft. And she groomed me. She made me meet people like Jaydev Baghel, who's no more, uh, uh, Satnarayan Lal Karan, Chelapati Rao. These are all, stalwarts in the world of craft.
Right.
Kalahasti, where Kalamkari comes from, Kantha work, Alima Khatun, I've met her, interviewed her. The book
Oh,
came out of meeting all these famous doyens of craft. While they were simple, villagers, to me, they were the greats of craft. And actually, Smeetha, you must come over. I have representations of their work all over my home.
right. And these books, what are the titles? What are they called? The 2 books?
So the book was called Paramparik Karigar, the
Okay.
craft book, and the other one was called it's a longish title, so I'm trying to remember. It's called Iconic Something in Stone.
Okay.
It's on the net. It's a hardcover book with a foreword from Shriji Arvind Singh Mewar, the
Definitely.
Maharaja of Udaipur.
Okay, great. And I'll pop in to see those artworks on your walls also.
Absolutely, you have to. I think the next poetry reading we'll do right here.
Sure. Okay. I'll
Yes,
take you up
please,
on that. Thank you so
please,
much.
please do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so your poetry flows from many creative streams in you: the aesthetics of art curating, the feel and eye for design and architecture, the literary practice of writing, your compassion for the world around you and the people who need help. I remember what a lot of work you did for the underprivileged during COVID, not
Yes.
only for health, but also feeding the poor. And the deep bonds of friendship and family. Uh, so poetry is what brings it all together for you now, right? I mean, it's the
Right.
culminating creative act on your, in an
Absolutely.
apt, resonant, rising culmination of creativity. So many congratulations on that, and we do hope to see a book. What's your favorite time for writing? But you already answered that. You said you get up early and yes,
No, I said I sleep. I don't sleep. I get up in at 2 and 3 and I need to frantically find a phone to quickly write it down because it flies. It comes and it flies out. So I have to quickly belt it out. And I find,
yeah,
Smeetha, I have to reread and edit. So to put things in a book, one will have to edit. But the
mm,
fact is, the first draft is always magical.
yeah,
And when I read it, I actually don't have a memory.
yeah. Who are your favorite poets?
So I'm still enjoying one of my closest friends in the world, who's now poet laureate in the UK, and somebody who I actually love and adore is Imtiaz Dharkar.
Yes,
She's
we
the
all
poet
do.
laureate. She's become a world personality now. She's also done 3 portraits of me. I wish
Oh,
I could show them to you all. Then, of course, I'm still very enamored and in love with the greats. Tennyson is my all-time favorite, In Memoriam, which he wrote for his best friend Arthur. It, it really moves me. It's In Memoriam because it's a very, very, I think it's the longest poem he ever wrote, Tennyson. And of course, I love the vignettes of Wordsworth because I associate nature with Wordsworth. So
yes.
my country mountain home is inspired by Wordsworth. And my attitude to life is inspired by the other poet whose name I'm forgetting, who wrote about standing and staring. I try and always take a leaf from that poem, and I make time
Trust. Yeah, yeah.
to stand there and enjoy nature. Nature
Double
forms
trust.
an important part of my life and is a very symbolic, metaphorical part of my poetry, as you know already. I love the silver poets. They move me immensely. I have performed and acted Shakespeare. I love some of his sonnets. You can see behind you, I'm surrounded by books of, Shakespeare. I'm also poetically inspired by prose. I enjoy prose in the form of poetry. I read certain parts, of prose, which to me appear like poetry.
Yeah.
So some of these authors are, however cliched this sounds, for me, Jane Austen and some of the language, used by Elizabeth, some of the language used in Persuasion, it's literally like poetry. So it moves
Yes.
me immensely. Martin Amis, his prose and his use of language and word is like poetry.
Yes.
I'm very moved by the silver poets. I studied them. I'm an India topper from English honors, so I've studied poetry in depth, and I love the poetry of the Renaissance period, of the older poets, and of the
Right.
latest poets. I'm not able to recapitulate names always, but a lot of the poets move me. I read them a lot. I read them on the go. I read them on the net. And interestingly, Smeetha, even music
Yeah.
sometimes very poetic, and you can be inspired by just the rock and pop genre of music.
Yeah.
You
Very
know,
true.
even Dire Straits. Sometimes it's very, the brick on the wall.
Mm.
It's very symbolic, and there's a lot being said without being said.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful answer. And the best way of writing poetry, of course, is to have read it widely before. So, it really enriches what you're trying to express yourself after that. So, kind
But
of
to
it's.
that, I just want to say that Sadhguru Jaggi has said a very interesting thing.
Hmm.
He actually, believe it or not, discourages you from reading too much, because
Okay.
he feels then sometimes you may be regurgitating.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's a very interesting point of view, which I sometimes adopt, Smeetha, because sometimes, because I also paint extensively. Now, I am not a studied artist, and I paint and I paint and I paint. And I find sometimes if you're unschooled, it is
Hmm.
literally from the gut. Something
Yeah.
else is working.
Very true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I'm writing or writing poetry, it's actually unschooled and a little untrained.
It's more you then, it's more natural. Yeah,
Yes.
because after learning something actually, and to come to your own voice and to your own, kind of facility
Signature.
in that, you have
Yes.
to unlearn. So after
Absolutely.
art school, I have heard artists say that it took me 5 years really to unlearn, and then find a thing of my own, because I didn't want
Yes.
to stick with that perspective and that way of doing it. My
And
way
you're
of doing
brilliant, if
it,
I may say
yes,
so.
yes,
You're a
and
brilliant
that's a
poet.
and that's a period of confusion. I think anybody who's kind of you know trained in a subject goes through to come back
Absolutely.
to your own natural self. Yeah. And also very true what you said about the music has this the entire internal rhythm itself, right? It's the poetry and the songs are connected in that, so
Absolutely. And it's
yeah.
very inspiring if you go into some of Michael Jackson's, Human Nature, Phil Collins. It's very philosophical and poetic. And Smeetha, if I may say so, I've also studied some of Nietzsche, Descartes. That also brings a very deep philosophy into poetry. So
Hmm.
it's a kind of collage of various experiences and also various readings.
Yeah, all of Beatles, I find, holds true to that. Jacques
Absolutely.
Kerouac, of course, and yeah, a lot of deep philosophy, of course, the best poetry around. Philip Larkins, though he hardly, I think he wrote about 4 or 5 books in his lifetime. It's
Absolutely. And brilliant.
yeah. So next we go on to you tell us what you would like to share. Would you like to tell us a little more about your traditional Indian craft, or would you like to go more into your poems?
So I think, my poems um, are what you hear. I'm not very analytical. They come from my experiences in life. I've personally never found, contrary to what some of my fans write to me and say, what do you know about, struggle? You live in a garden of flowers. So I've never found life very easy. I find it challenging. And while it makes me who I am, it makes me a compassionate person, a giving person, a person who never, I can get angry with people, but I never leave the people I love. I'm always there solidly standing. I'm a long term friend. I believe in resolving rather than moving away. That's my philosophy in life. I have recently written a poem called Unlove. I can't unlove. Once I've loved somebody, it's for life for me. So poetry comes from my own challenges, and I feel I'm writing more when I'm facing those challenges. Happy times never make you reflect or make you into a better person. So when
Yes.
you're reading about Krishna and you're reading philosophy coming from Hinduism, it's quite clear that we turn to God, we turn to the inner soul only when we have rapid stress, challenges, problems in our lives. So my life holds true for that. My poetry comes from challenge. My life, a sense, the person you see in front of you comes from my challenges, not
Absolutely.
the, yeah. And happy pictures on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram are not the substance that life is made of, because I'm sure
Difficult.
none of us are going to post pictures of stress and frowns and crying, right? But what is there in the reflection of those challenges if it's not happy pictures? It is the poetry that we write, it
Yes.
is the columns we write, it is the books that we write. That is what reflects the inner soul of who I am. And that is what my poetry is, Smeetha.
Perfect. And it's never, people are not able to really understand the challenges another person is going through, because to them, they belong to a higher social strata, or they're perceived to have more. It's not like that. Every human has deep challenges, right? It may not be
Absolutely.
evident.
And if you see those people living a charmed life just 5 years ago, nearly, I mean, a large percent of them are sitting in prison today,
Yes,
because of their financial discrepancy.
yes, I know
Now, we
what
don't
you're
know
saying.
what the realities and what the unrealities, but the fact is, it can't be very easy
It
going
can't be
from
easy
Rolls
at all.
Royces to jail, right? So
Absolutely.
while I don't want to judge them, all I want to say is life can't be easy for anyone, and we
Anyone.
can't really assume. And the second thing, Smeetha, everyone asks me all the time is, how come you didn't stick to one career when you're a educated, award-winning interiors architect who started her career with a prestigious project like Jaipur Airport? The answer is because I'm not here to perform like a seal or like a
Yeah,
performing monkey. I'm here to live my own life,
right.
and I never started my education or my life to please anyone. I was busily trying to live the experiences I wanted to live. So I was not necessarily coveting fame or popularity. I've never been one to to want to win a popularity vote. So, I'm not really interested in people liking me
Yeah,
or saying, hey, you did great. So I'm more interested in actually living those experiences which I have to and want to. For
yeah.
instance, the one thing I've left, which I've not done, is learn the piano, which I'm frantically going to try and do now. So if I was asked, what are the two things you didn't do that you wanted to do? It was to learn languages and to play instruments, which I'm going to do now. So my life is actually a journey of experiences that I want to live. And
Right.
it's not to win certain awards or see myself, on any wall.
Yeah.
It's to end up saying, hey, I did everything I set out to, and now I'm okay to say goodbye. So that's been the reason for doing probably everything.
Mm.
And with God's grace, yes, I mean, the fame part of it has come as a byproduct. I never really went after it at all. I never dressed to please anyone. I was, some people found it very stylish and smart. Some people thought it was, unnecessary to wear hats. I wore them regardless. I wore them because I loved them. I still love them. I could actually be sitting at home with a, pom-pom hat on my head. So I wear them because I enjoy it. So life for me has been about living, like Tennyson says, living to the lees. You must have read that line. And that is what my philosophy and my journey has been about.
Yeah, so you have curated your life, so to speak, right? I mean, you have added all the ingredients you wanted and you're
Yes.
happy with, that makes you happy, and that makes your inner worth come fully, to
Absolutely.
fruition.
And
Yeah,
also
so
by adventure and experience. Adventure is about doing things just wildly. Somebody recently said, how can you go to Crawford Market, you're this and your shoes and your that? I said, why not? I would love to wear flats and walk. And I went and I enjoyed myself and I had a blast and I sweated, no doubt. And everything was crushed and crumpled by the time I came back, and I walked the streets. I could go anywhere, do anything without any ego, without really having, the baggage of performance pressure. It doesn't exist.
yeah, that's so perfect. Absolutely. And I love your headgear so much.
Thank you.
This one and the colors and everything.
For all the people here today and for you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so do you have some poetry you would like to read? We are almost coming to the conclusion of the beautiful session with you. So I would leave it to you to decide how you would like to,
I
bring
will end with a poem which talks about, my philosophy, and I'm going to try and find it. And I'm going to read this last poem, which you've already heard, Smeetha. You hadn't heard the poem I started with, right? The one about Bombay life. Am I right? But this one you heard, which is the one you presented to the, which you've had published in your compendium of poems. Butterflies are free, and so am I. Navigating streams and foliage, skimming over the sea, the sunshine, and the moons. Romancing aligning planets, cool climes, cloudy skies. I am ebullient in the breezes because butterflies are free. Butterflies are free, and so am I. Now and again, the azure sea turns dark. The clouds may loom deep and thick. I may find enormous sharks. I feel the black looming skies acutely. But there's always a ray of light, the ray that guides and takes me through. A sunbeam glowing, deep and true, I may falter, but I find my way. Always, always meander through. My life may rock and really roll, but I land on my feet, I promise you. I land on my feet and softly still, through butterfly bushes, streams, and boughs, because butterflies are free, and so am I.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Smeetha.
I may falter, but I'll always find my ground.
And land on my feet.
I'll land on my feet, yeah. Beautiful, absolutely.
Thank you, Smeetha, for the absolutely magnificent session. Every single experience over the last several years with you has been magical, has been a journey in an erratica of words and thoughts and readings and discovering poets and discovering each other. You have a special gift of finding and bringing together people that have synergies through words. And I would like to pay a tribute to you and your perseverance and your immense investments in bringing out books despite the fact that there's no lucrative path to bringing out poetry books, you do it with great alacrity and with a kind of dedication which I admire and respect. Thank you for today.
Thank you so much, Nisha, and thank you for those wonderful warm compliments. I'm so overwhelmed and so grateful. And it was amazing talking to you and knowing so much more, about you as a person, and not just your poetry, but your persona and the way your creative flow works, actually a very organic, natural way. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for being with us. And
Thank
you've made our 6th anniversary celebration so very special. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
From me
Smeetha.
personally and all at me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I look forward to many others. And now, Smeetha, a real life one very soon. That's my farmaish. Thank you and ohua.
The recording has stopped.
Our next session starts in a while. We'll wait for Gayatri Chawla. She is there in the session 2 of this evening. To all who are watching, thank you very much. We'll be starting session 2 shortly. Session 2 features Gayatri Chawla. Yay, Gayatri, hi.
Hi, Smeetha.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? Uditi is better now. She was down with a bad viral, so I took her to the doctor. She's fine, better.
I was quite worried that, how you will be placed. And yeah, so I'm so glad she's doing better. Yeah.
I rushed and took her to the doctor. She was on antibiotics. So, the weather is so bad, yeah. It's just,
it
the
is.
temperature has just dipped and it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I know. You're not audible.
Not audible?
Now it's okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Lighting is okay, no? It's okay.
Yeah.
So,
did you watch the live stream on FB?
I watched a little bit of it, but I watched, I was there for Lily's. I think it was so well structured, Smeetha. It was
Thank you so much.
structured, and you have this thing like you tell us that, okay, you can talk of anything you want to for an hour, and it's a very big heart you have. You know that, Smeetha. It's really very fine.
Wish you a very wonderful session now. I think we can start off. Are you okay? Ready? Can we start?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll start the recording then. Yeah, we're good to go. Good evening. Welcome to this session of Poetry and Conversation with Gayatri Chawla, the golden girl of poetry, blessed with spiritual knowledge, awards, and the love of all things poetic. Her latest book, Healing Elixir, says it all. She carries the words of Sufi saints, and her poems are surely blessed. Before I hand it over to you, Gayatri, a very brief introduction. Gayatri Chawla is the winner of the Rahi Kadam Inspiration Award 2021, is a poet, translator, and French teacher from Mumbai. Her poems feature in international anthologies and journals like the American Poetry Anthology, the Indian Pen, Modern Poetry Translation, Better Than Starbucks, an anthology by University of Pennsylvania, and Sept. The Bombay Review, Narrow Road, Eugen Quest Review, Modern English Poetry by Younger Indians, a Sahitya Academy publication, the Kali Project, the Yearbook of Indian Poetry in English, and her debut book, The Invisible Eye, was longlisted for the Cochin Litfest Poetry Prize 2018. She won the Right Publish Publicize Award in the Bangalore Poetry Festival 2019 for The Invisible Eye. The Empress, her second collection of poetry, was winner of the US National Poetry Contest by Red Leaf Foundation 2018. Gayatri won the Panorama Special Jury Award at the Panorama International Literary Awards 20. Her poem was shortlisted by the Asia Pacific Writers and Translators in collaboration with the Zhao Roque Literary Journal, June 20. Her poem won the first prize at the New Normal Poetry Competition by Poetry Paradigm, Oxford Bookstore, and XLR Books. Over to you, Gayatri. Do start with a poem of yours and we'll take it on from there.
Thank you, Smeetha, for those beautiful, kind words, and good evening, friends. First and foremost, congratulations to Women Empowered India on this very special 6th anniversary. And I'm absolutely ecstatic to be part of the journey. And it's a very special day. I'm very happy to be here. So, Smeetha, do you want me to start? So this is the book, I'm Over the Moon. So I have to share it. It's called Healing Elixir, the Havakal Handbook of Angel Therapy, Numerology, and Remedies. So basically, it's a book on healing, but you know, poetry is second skin to me. So before every chapter, there's a poem that precedes every chapter. So I like to begin with this poem, and it's called Angels. Angels, winged being of light, graced with a heart of rose gold. You hold my hand in times of distress. You silently dry my tears, sprinkling my soul with stardust. Whilst the trees whispers, echoes in the hills, I look around, the garden of miracles. Countless butterflies celebrate life in its purest form. Believe in magic, and you shall see it. That flicker in the first sunbeam, that must be you, Archangel Michael. Thank you.
That's so lovely. That's a beautiful thought, angel. And I think the book opens with this, is it? Wow, very, very fitting. And you've been right from the beginning in the V journey, 30th September 2016.
Absolutely.
And you picked the one on the 10th because you went to your book launch in Delhi. Yeah. And so we have done so many readings together. In fact, in all of them, I think you have been there, except maybe one or two. It's been an amazing journey.
Yes.
It's wonderful to have you here today.
Likewise, Smeetha, as I said, it's a very special day, and I'm so happy to be part of the journey and celebrate the success here.
Thank you, G. This one goes to you. The mysterious magic of G is not ephemeral, it is palpable. Your fingers strumming to resonating heartbeats as you remember the whiplash, how much, following a description of Mangoes and Brides, Max Muller Bhavan, sometime in 2018. And then you wonder, her poems touch you so deeply. Is it the Eklavya one you wonder, or is it, or the one reminiscent of Sachal Sarmast, the Sufi poet? And suddenly, Healing Elixir, what a name, is on the horizon, assailing your eyes. And you know the magic that brings it all together. A deep understanding, a deep compassion, and love. That is what defines Gayatri. So your mantra is poetry, right? Even in this book of numbers and all kinds of occult stuff, you have you're putting poetry. That's what.
Yes, so I've put in, so there are basically 3 chapters. There's angel therapy, numerology, and remedies. So before every chapter, I have a poem. It starts with a poem. And, you can't get poetry out of your veins. So it's there definitely. But it's, as I said, it's a book on healing. There's affirmations, there's prayer, and all of that in this particular book.
That's wonderful because I have been a follower of numerology right from childhood because my dad used to follow these two things, numerology and astrology. So, numerology, he had this thing about numbers and he went deeply into the roots of numbers and what they signified. So, like number nine and what it signified, and it has Mars as the ruling planet. And so, they can be slightly more aggressive and assertive people. So people born in number nine, which is me, yeah,
27th June.
27, the, all the number nine editions, like, so I'm deeply influenced. And if you've noted my name, SNEE, that's the influence. I later on, did that to myself, changed my name to that double E and also put an H. Thanks to the SSC board, it was already there, but I kind of reinforced it. So yeah, I'm very much into what you're talking about. And my father was also, in spite of being an engineer and a professor, he also had this thing. It's a family thing about homeopathy and all kinds of healing practices. They came from the Vaid community, the doctors. All the natural healing aspects and homeopathy, all those little bottles, pill bottles at home. So I'm definitely getting a book of yours and going back to those days because I've lost touch recently. Yeah. So tell us, how does a poem start in your mind and how do you take it forward? Like, what's the initial thought and how do you then write it? Do you write it at one go or do you does it happen over time?
Thank you for that question.
What's it like?
So, poetry, I never sit down to write a poem. It's not that I sit down, okay, today I'm going to write this poem. No. I will be doing 1,000 things, mundane things, and suddenly I will, probably think of this particular word, or there'll be a song that'll take me to my childhood. There'll be a whiff of some lemongrass tea. I will think of my mother. So that's that's the magic of poetry. So if I hear a word or I read something, it'll just take me. So I go with that particular word, and I
Yeah.
go to that, to that space where I can kind of go through those emotions and all of that, and then I write. But of course, as memory is like, you don't really remember, so immediately I need to then sit down and then just jot it all down.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And so there's no particular routine. I am trying to make it part of my practice, because Gulzar Saab said that you should write it every day for
Yeah.
2 hours. You must write, and then it
Mm.
becomes you kind of engineer yourself like that. But so I try to do that, but that's not the way I write poetry. So when a poem comes to me, it comes to me, and then I write it down, and then of course there's a first draft, then maybe a tweak later or something, but a first and a second draft, and that's it, nothing more. So
Right.
yes, I do a lot of automatic writing, or I write from the subconscious, or there's a dream that I would have seen. So that's why the surrealist poets are I can, I like the surrealist poets, because that's what their thing is. They give a lot of emphasis to freedom of imagination, and emphasis to your dreams and your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, that's the way I write. But yes, if there's a theme, now if I have to submit and there's a theme that so then there's a little trick. Then you listen to a particular song that will probably take. So you have to be aware and keep your five senses always, be aware of the five senses, and then work around that, if there's a theme.
Right. Yeah. It's very similar of late for me. It all first happens in the mind. The last stage is actually putting it down on the paper. So it forms all in the mind mostly now. Initially, I had to actually start writing on the page and then it developed. But nowadays, it's more, first it's happening and then I write it down. And it's mostly hardly about max 2 revisions and it's on, kind of.
Yes.
Just, yeah. But the basic flow, the main content happens at in the mind and you put it down. And I think it's a lovely thing to happen, because when you used to write earlier on the page, it needed a lot of editing
Yes.
later, you know. Now it requires less of it. So it's a, yeah, but like you said, all those routine things help. You know, I've seen you're going about absolutely not no poetry in the mind, and you're doing something very which you're comfortable doing. You know, a daily core. You know, something you do, dusting, mopping, cooking, whatever it is, and suddenly you know poetry comes from there. It's like
I would be doing something as routine as maybe shelling peas, and I'm suddenly, oh, that blue of the lake, and it was so beautiful, and then I start writing. Then it's so I don't know how there is this connection, but I don't really need to sit down, and a lot of people like to write like that with peace and quiet and all, but I can write in Mumbai city. I'm a Mumbai girl, so
yeah, same
I can
here. I think what they say about the regular practice of writing, I don't know whether it works for poets. So for authors, it certainly does, because they would have already mapped out the contents of the book, the outline, you know, and they have a kind of ending in mind. And maybe, of course, it develops organically while writing, the characters take shape, but they do have an outline. And unless they sit and write that, it's not going to happen. Those 20 chapters or whatever it is, the
yes.
300 pages is not going to just happen. So they'll have to fill it in. But whereas for a poem, it's not like that at all, right? You just can't just one day sit and say, I'm going to suddenly, you know. So prompts help for me, actually. Prompts help. That's when you can actually write.
Yeah,
And
so that it's like a giving you a little direction, so that
yeah,
this is the
yes,
way, and it's like your mind is like a child, right? So it's
yeah,
going this side, going that
yeah,
side,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then it gives you a prompt, gives you a direction where you need to write about this particular thing,
Yes,
and then maybe like whatever the suppose it's say you look at something, like you look at a glass jar or something beautiful, look at an art painting, then you start
hmm,
looking at that, then you think of what the artist has, why the artist has written this, what was he thinking when he was drawing this painting,
yes, absolutely.
write a
Yeah.
poem about him or what was going on in his mind, or you can write about the painting. So there are 1,000 ways you can take, definitely more than 13 ways you can write
Yeah,
your
yeah,
poems.
yeah. No, initially I used to think that, you know, prompts maybe, you know, kind of channeling you in something which you're not either comfortable or familiar. But actually, what happens, I've seen that all these thoughts are in me are going on, but it needs a channel to come out, right? And poetry is already formed inside, and the prompt beautifully brings it out. It's like a pipeline, you know. So
Exactly.
the prompt actually acts as a lead, and then my inner thoughts, whatever was there, that comes out. So it all it needed was that prompt. So I realized the beauty of the prompt now, you know. It'll actually bring out what's there in you. It's not, you're not really acting to that, whatever. You might be responding in a little way, but actually all that thing, at least for me, it works very well, you know. So yeah. So I'm very glad of all those poetry communities which, remember how we had written at the
I
Global
know.
Poetry, we started there, and then now of course we do at our own space and the Celebrate Poetry Writing Month, and it really works. And I think people enjoy it also. Quite a lot of poets do.
Yes, and actually, what happens is for me, I think when I'm like, I know I have to write this, I have to finish it, then suddenly, I write. Okay, then I'm writing. If I say okay, I'm not. There is no deadline. Then I don't know whether I would write it also.
I,
Things
two
like that.
kinds, yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you were saying that it could be anything that perks up your, you know, poetry on the page. So it could be, you could be, you know, kind of inspired by colors or something you saw or a song or an object. So I remember now you had that beautiful poem called Blue Porcelain. You remember that Blue Porcelain thing? Is it from Invisible Eye or some other book, or I don't know?
The blue porcelain is the Krishna one, right? Wait 1 second. The blue porcelain is from Invisible Eye. The blue pottery.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
one.
yeah, right.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hyperopia. Outside my window, cornflower sky, Persian blue pottery on my kitchen sill, wall mount painting of baby Krishna, turquoise skirt flitting on the clothesline, indigo computer screen blinking in solitude, bluish purple bruises glowing in the dark.
It's amazing poem, yeah. This is
Thank
from
you so
which book?
much. This is from Invisible Eye,
Right, I
and
remember that, yeah.
you remember it. I'm so touched, Smeetha. This is from Invisible. Read another poem from you.
Gayatri, I can't hear you. Huh, no.
Should I read
Yeah,
another poem from Healing Elixir?
yeah.
The poem on the next chapter is numerology. So, as I said, there's a poem that precedes every chapter. So, this is called Numbers. In a mishmash of childhood dreams, a date lingers in his mind. A little boy of 8 keeps it close to his heart. His lucky number remains there, locked in his head. On reciting 4 quarters, he decides, this shall be my destiny number. What is it with the 3 o'clock prayer? She sits by the window in grace, folding her hands, completely sated, enchantingly basking in the divine powers. The creator of the universe listens. It was the 366th day of the year. Earth orbits around the sun, a little tired, a little quenched. Finally, as the axis of the earth shifts, it is time for a revelation. Thank you.
And what does this chapter go on to say?
So numerology is basically the science of numbers, and it's strange. We are also always surrounded by numbers, and for example, I mean, time is the biggest witness of that. And so numerology is, I'm talking about the birth date number, which is also called the operator number, and the way you calculate it is basically bringing down your birthday number to one digit number from number 1 to 9. And then I talk about these personality traits of number 1 to 9. I talk about some famous personalities also, and then the profession that will is apt for that particular personality. Also, it's basically the strength and weakness of that particular personality, so that you know how to deal with situations, how to deal with colleagues at work, and how to get to know yourself better. So that is what this chapter is about.
What number are you?
I'm
What's your
number
birthday?
6,
Oh,
24th of
wow.
November.
That's one of the most happiest and blessed numbers.
Number 6 is a social number. Yes, lots of
Yes.
friends. But so that's the chapter on numerology, and then there's a chapter on remedies, which is again solutions and solutions. So as I said, this book is all about affirmations. It's like a the idea of this. Should I tell you about how I started writing this book, Healing Elixir? So, during the pandemic is when the idea conceptualized. And as a healer, I'm a tarot and angel card reader. So, a lot of people came to me to share their grief and distress. And I think it was a very difficult time. And at that time, a lot of emotions resurfaced of loneliness, isolation, in many cases, trauma and violence as well. So definitely they needed healing, and I decided I need to write this book. And given the distance and space, sometimes it's not possible for
Yeah.
to reach me. In that case, I said, for anybody in any part of the world, the book will reach them. So that
Yes.
is the very reason why
That's
I
so
wanted
wonderful.
to write this particular book. So the book has it's like a step-by-step process of meditation, affirmations, prayer, and then it's beautifully. You must see the illustrations here. So they have these illustrations.
Wow.
There's
Yeah. Angel.
The archangel. So in the angel chapter, there are 7 angels I talk about. So Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael. So all these. So then, when I say like each archangel has a role to play, and depending on what your intent is or what you're seeking, you can pray to that particular archangel. So you don't need to Google, the picture. The picture is right here. You can just look at the picture and go through that affirmation and read the prayer, and you feel the change. So that is one thing. Do you want me to read a page, or should I get back to poetry? Anything you say. I have a
Yeah,
poem on healing, the poem on healing, because there's this chapter on remedies, and remedies are like, full moon affirmations,
okay.
new moon is again like for new beginnings. So you could light a candle and listen to some music. So this particular chapter starts with a poem called Winter. Bury the ashes of your broken heart in a Kotra rose plant. Dig the soil with both your hands. Let the tears flow right through. They say it's a dark moon ritual, cutting the cord from the source. Sometimes there's no other way to closure but healing the wound within. And in the end, when you sit up and notice, all the pain sweetens the air like the morning bird song.
Wow. Bury the ashes of your broken heart. Amazing. That's how you start off. And I remember you used to do tarot, right? You were you
Yes,
does tarot appear in the book?
so I just when I'm talking about the numerology, when I'm saying number 1 and 2, then the first card of the tarot, I talk a little bit about that also, so that it's a small paragraph about what the first card says, if that comes in a reading, and
Okay.
so that is also there. So that's about this book.
So how long did it take you to put this together?
I started during the pandemic end of 2000.
2 years.
Yeah,
Hmm.
2 years, because the research
Wonderful.
and reading it.
It's such a lovely response to the the chaotic situation that we went through. So much of isolation, fear, anxiety, and you converted that into healing things for in this book. That's amazing. Absolutely.
I feel, so you don't need to come for a consultation with
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
because given
You
the
just have the
space,
book
and
and
sometimes it's not possible, to share something also with a stranger, because there's so much of trauma,
yeah,
and I've seen it with.
yes. And even talking about it can sometimes make you feel even more stressed because you're actually reliving that
Yes,
moment or memory,
yes.
right? I feel that sometimes it's not possible to really share, the correct thing. Yeah.
Case, then you can just read the book and seek the energy from the I think that is.
Hmm. Amazing. That's congratulations, G.
Thank you
That
so
was a
much, Smeetha.
fantastic idea, actually, to be able to kind of, conceptualize and put it all together and, amazing.
I feel as a healer, I believe that if I can even, heal one person on this planet, then my work here is done. So that's what I believe in, and that's what I want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I really hope your book reaches widely, and people
Thank
can
you.
really find, because even now, it's not as if you're back to real normal. It's a lot of chaos. It's a lot of stress even now going on. So it should be able to really help people. In fact, I had a very favorite author, hmm, The Secret, Rhonda Bryan, I think her name is, right?
Yes, yes, of course.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
power of manifestation.
yes, awesome. So it helped me during a very difficult phase of my life, So I really have great faith in these books. They help you. And I have seen that you will find the right book for you at the right time.
The
It
book will
does.
reach you.
Yes, it will reach you. And a great favorite, Tackle Waves, is always there. And I found it, there, yeah. So I'm planning to do a session there. Let's hope it works out. It's still not So after this is over, maybe, that's the final finale kind of.
Fantastic, Smeetha. What can I say?
Yeah. And you and I, we have both been at all the venues that we has kind of read, done programs in. So right from
I
the
know.
beginning.
I look back and I say, oh my God, it's already been 6 years. And that's quite an achievement. A lot of, I like to say here that I think, you've got a very large heart, and to provide that platform for artists and poets and writers to express themselves, it means a lot. And thank you so much for doing that, for being just yourself, Smeetha. Thank you so much.
And thank you, G, for you being yourself and participating wholeheartedly right from the start. So this moment is very precious to us right now. 6 years of this journey, right from the beginning, both of us have seen. It's amazing. And yeah, and lot of very things like working out in serendipity. Like you come out with this book, and Nisha has joined recently, yeah, and she's, kind of expressed herself as a poet and plans to do a book. That's a
Yes.
huge, move forward. And because she's already always written, she says, but she never kind of brought it out earlier. And then Lily Swan has come out with that ghazal book. My God, it's amazing. And what poems she read, you were there, right? I mean,
I was there. I was there.
amazing ghazals, and she's of course a kind of a in a world of her own. She's a star there. Oh my God! But a ghazal book from a woman is right now. It's the absolute right thing. And the one she read that day, it's still going on in my. In fact, I couldn't express it all that day because I was really floored with what she read. And she says that she's received big praise from all the senior, literary persons at Rekhta, which is a big thing. They're the experts
It
in
is.
it.
It
Yeah.
is. Rekta is very.
Yeah. So it's a lot of things coming together at this, your book, Lily's book, and we, of course, have taken quite good strides with Yugen Quest review. It's
Yes.
quite a lovely step in the right direction because in-person readings are not permanent in the sense you don't have even if there is a recording, you can't always access it. But as a written word which is going ahead, it has a life of its own.
Documented. It's
Yes, it's
documented.
documented. Yeah, yeah, and it's much easier on resources. So that it's a nice thing to have happened. And unless the pandemic had happened, I couldn't have done it because pandemic made you homebound. You know, where you could actually, in spite of all the work that was there, home front, cooking, cleaning, mopping, and that actually made you more kind of desperate to get back to your that screen time was so precious, when you actually got to your computer, it was like, wow, I have actually finished all that and I have time now. And then when you were there, you were really focusing. You're not, nothing else was going. You're not looking at Facebook. So I sat down and I worked out, how to do it because earlier I had tried, it was too technical. Nahi hua tha. I had tried earlier. But pandemic mein suddenly, that intense
So you have the
focus.
stress of you have to do it. There's no other way. That's what I said. When you have that, then you just
It was
learn.
like that, yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of happy things coming together, and I really wish you. I'm just going to go over and get your book, and of course you promised to send it to me also. I
Yes,
look forward to that.
I just
Yeah,
got the copies yesterday,
yeah,
and because of the rain and everything, I said I'll send it probably tomorrow. So I will be sending it.
awesome. Many congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
so now I'll let it be. It'll not be more requests from my side. So we'll let it free flow. So you kind of take it up. Whether you want to share poems from your earlier books, The Empress, The Invisible Eye. I wanted to ask you in those two poetry collections, The Invisible Eye and The Empress. Do you have a favorite, or they are equally good?
So a very difficult question, but I must share this with you. This is an ongoing project,
I,
and this
Gayatri,
started. Yeah. So it's an ongoing project which started just before the pandemic, and it went on a pause mode. It's poetry in translation. And this is basically translation of my poems into Sindhi. It's one of a kind because it's, two languages and trilingual. So there'll be one poem in English, one in Sindhi, the Arabic Persian script, and then one the Devanagari script. So this had started, then the pandemic happened, so it went on pause mode. So I've again revived that particular project with an amazing team of translators. So that is also done, and this is essentially so they're my poems of poems of parting and partition. So when I'm saying that the theme of partition, I've always been drawn to the theme of partition because of my father, the stories that he told me about Manju and Karachi and all of that I encapsulate in the form of poetry. And parting, I feel when you part from your beloved, you almost have the same emotions of nostalgia, melancholy, grief that you have when you leave the mother, your homeland. So that's why it's 25 poems of poems on partition as well as parting. So there's some love poems as well. So I'd like to start with, should I read a poem on, should I read Sindh? Should I read that? I'll start with Sindh.
Yeah, sure, you start with that.
Sindh. Satchel rests in the cobalt blueness of the walls of Daraza. The city he never left holds his shrine. In her folded hands, seeking the divine. Satchel breathes in the sienna brown lotus stem fritters sold door to door by the weary vendor, wrapped in withered paper, time waft aftertaste. Drink from the chalice of love, intoxicated in the ebb of separation. He comes alive in the folk tales of Momal and Rano, sung by Amma, sitting on a charpoy, smoking ferociously from a brass hookah. She's 94 now, quilting an ajrak mattress, inherited from the ancestors of her ancestors, umbically connected to the land and its people. Sindh, the land of Sufi saints, brazen and stark, a contagion of faith, bellwether of nostalgia. Raise your hands to the Lord in the sky above. Oneness is contagious and resides here. I'd like to read a
This
love
one,
poem.
To the Raza, I think Rochelle Potker, she loved it, and she wrote a poem about this, right? To the Raza.
Yes, she has written about Sachal much before this one, and she said, "I'm dedicating it to you." And I think we had heard it at Vinita's place. That's it. So I'm going to read now a love poem. It's called Je ne sais quoi. This is from my book, The Empress.
Empress.
And this is all going to be part of that collection, as I told you, of an upcoming project. How very strange. The one habit I abhorred about you was the very image that stayed with me in time. The smell of goldflake cigarette on a rainy day. The wetness of the earth and tobacco was intoxicatingly combustible. I was at a mushaira night at a friend's place. The scent of rose flowers infused fragrance and poetry. Outside, the clouds had started their own mushaira. It was the first monsoon shower. Rain drizzled softly. The leaves of the money plant creepers swayed in the breeze as I took in the smell of wet earth along with the waft of goldflake. You were standing close by near the balcony, jean-clad, kurta kind, disheveled. You looked lost or heartbroken or both. With the dim Chinese paper lanterns bobbling over our heads, I smell your cigarette smoke much before I saw you. Am I as missed as you? I thought. I never confessed how I wore your full sleeve white shirt one entire day to just be in your skin. It smelled of you and holding hands and walking in the rain. Do you remember the wetness of that day that seeped into our bodies, our souls, our lives forever? In a room with walls of a dozen people, no words were exchanged, only eyes locked in the backdrop of the heavy Mumbai rains.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Amazing. Your, I think you must love both your collections very much. The first one, because it's about partition, which is close to your heart. you've heard so much about it from your dad. Yeah, and the second one because it takes you forward on the journey, right? So I'll come to that question. I'd love to read a poem from my own book now to you. This one I'm reading here from this
Yes.
beautiful edifices. We, a leaf, its veins ajar, a trove of filigreed moments through which we peep to see ourselves standing in the present moment, swathed in light, burnt to cinders of togetherness over the years that have given and taken away all that we have. Angst and emotions walking out and returning on tiptoe when it rained, iridescent, invisible. There were diamonds too on the walls, with mildew, hewn out of shadow and glimmering soft tremors of joy, on an uneven glaze of molten pain. Never again, we had promised, in vain. Streams of thoughts play themselves out in cinematic vision. As the faces rotate, time is circular here, not linear, with the past and the future. This is then, this is now. Pearls in the eyes, a heart full of diamonds, and a strange solitude. Oh, roses too. This is because we spoke a
Oh,
lot about
lovely.
relationships and the way they go up and down. So this has all the
Yes.
pain, the heartbreak, the joy. It was going through a
And
very
it's so
difficult time.
apt. Yes, it's so apt. It just fit in.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Yeah. So now I want to ask you that your journey from Invisible Eye to Empress to Elixir. So what is the growth that has happened here?
When I started with Invisible Eye, of course, as I told you, that was the theme that, it has, I always, writing was something, poetry, I used to jot down things as a child. And then eventually, when I came up much later, of course, with my own collection, then it was more of, the first book is about partition, more of partition poems, because I was drawn to that. And when I look back, the Empress is a tarot card in the deck of cards, and I also grew spiritually. At that time, I was drawn to spirituality also. So after my daughter was born, I did teacup reading workshop. So that way, so all of that, I think then my later poems uh, have a glimpse of that. Like when I started translating Sindhi Sufi poet such as Harmas, because again, he's Sufi. So, I got drawn to that because Sufism and spirituality, that's, I guess I started learning more about that because I was doing so much of research, and that has been a 5-year project. That is also another book in the pipeline. So I've learned now. I think I've not come full circle yet, but yes, now suddenly I feel when I listen to like my poems, if I read my poems in Sindhi, it's like a homecoming of sorts. Suddenly that your own language is,
Yeah,
you know, so
yes. I know
Maka
what you're
Achar
saying.
and all
Yeah,
of that, because otherwise, of course, I'm an English poet, I breathe English, I cannot think of anything else. But suddenly, if you want to say achar or you want to say something in Sindhi, immediately you connect.
yeah.
So that is
It's
happening.
a beautiful thing to happen. Yeah.
That is happening.
That's the real, yeah, that's the
Getting back to your
real
roots,
beauty.
basically, you're
Yeah, yeah,
connecting,
yeah.
you're trying to find out what is it that is calling you. And, they say like what you're seeking for is seeking you. Rumi says that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
getting to know more about again my roots, and that is the reason why that book I want to come out with the poetry in translation where they're my poems but in Sindhi. And when you listen to them and you're reading your poem leaving Sindh and then you listen to it in Sindhi, I read it out to my father and he's just smiling. So those are some things. So that is there. And I will take the journey and I'll see what I learn and I'll explore more things. Like they say, it's just started. The journey has just started. So I'm not come full circle yet. There's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
And
So do you write in the Sindhi script or do you write in English?
so no, I write in English. I don't write in Sindhi, but
Right.
I can read Devanagari. I can, of course,
Yeah.
I can cook Sindhi food. Yes. So yes, but I don't write in Sindhi. Yes, maybe that will be the next.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because I feel writing, poetry. That's like when you sing fiction or it's prose, it's very different because you sit down, you do research. Like for this book, because I'm a healer, I didn't have to really, I know that this is da 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 da. This is what happens. This you do. These are the affirmations. Your heart chakra. All of I could just go on typing and do my routine. But with a poem, with poetry, it's very different. You're crafting it, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Word has to have that nuance. It has to have that special ingredient,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because it's a craft
Yeah.
that we can go back to first draft, second draft, sometimes,
Yeah.
So, but with prose and all, it's much easier. So then writing again poetry in Sindhi is not easy. They have again a different style, but maybe a short story or something like that. I would love to, given
Yeah.
a few years, then I would like to do that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Poetry is more part of ourselves, even visceral. It's more physical, mental. It is us. I mean, you can't just sit down and plan a poem like that. It comes from inside, and it's I at least for me it works that way. So,
And
yeah, you
like it takes a long time for them to come up with a book because you can't immediately just like it will take you time till you can
yeah,
put on the collection and the theme
yeah,
and
yeah,
40-50 poems, but I still want to write some more to get a nice proper collection, for my own new poems. Like some war poems. I think we share the space in the
yeah,
anthology together. Kalpana's
yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's the next vision also. Yeah, to bring out anthology, of different writers and poets. Yeah. In fact, that's a very wonderful thing to happen when your work is reflected in an anthology because, it's called also a movement of thought happening across the pages, and kind of it shows up very well actually. Uh,
There's so many voices. So when you read
yeah,
that, like if you have from different parts of the world, like the new one, the anthology on sunflower anthology that's going
yeah,
to be up. Again, that's like there's so many different voices. So you get to read, and their perspectives are different.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Of a war, of we think this all whatever we read. What we read is what we know and we imagine. But for
mm,
somebody who's experiencing it out there, there's another thing altogether. There are people
absolutely,
who are going up out there and going and painting because they feel they must continue their lives. Though there's a
yeah,
war outside, they want to continue and they want to go for concerts and all of that. It's a very sad thing, very disturbing thing to see that the world is
yeah,
also.
yeah. Yeah, right. You mentioned sunflowers. Actually, Kalpana Singh Chitnis does really good anthologies. Even that pause healing thing, the earlier one, I think
Yes.
you're there also in it, right?
No,
Pause healing.
my Sachal translations are there in her Life and Legends. So
Okay,
some
okay. So that's another thing because she brings together poets from all over the world in that pause healing, and even in Sunflowers, which is dedicated to the
the
Ukraine
Ukraine.
situation.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to help that. So, yeah. Let's hope we also do an anthology later.
Yes,
It's
we
not yet
must.
planned.
We
We have a
must.
lot of work. We have a lot of
Must.
stuff. It needs to be put together. That's it.
You want me to read a war poem?
Yeah, please. Gayatri? Audible.
Now, am I
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
How to make borscht. Make a trip to your, so borscht is your soup which is made of beetroot, the borscht soup that they have. So how to make borscht. Make a trip to your vegetable garden. Pluck out 3 fleshy blood red beets, not to forget fresh celery ribs, and 1 large red pepper. Back in the kitchen, peel and grate the beets. It's a war zone, you think. You struggle with removing the crimson stains, your hands have blood. Blood, the vampire kind, the kind that makes you kill another, the kind that steals from a dead man, the kind that strangles the woman next door. Pretending to be happy, you sing at a high pitch as your 5-year-old looks on. The smell of fresh baked bread fills the kitchen with certitude of the next blessed meal shared by 20.
So what inspired this?
So, of course, the war, I was trying to get into the minds, I said for people who are really there, how would they be dealing with it? And there's so much of pain when you have to like literally leave. There was that picture that was doing the rounds on social media. She was carrying the cat and the dog, and you don't know when
Yeah.
leaving your home, and your home is
Yeah,
just
I mean,
that's
it
such.
was a very disturbing audiovisual during and just after the pandemic. The
Yes,
winter ended, and in spring this happened. It was like
yes.
an overload of, depression and fear and anxiety. And
Book of the children there. It is just
I mean,
terrifying, to think, because when you read about it, you feel so horrific. Imagine people who are going through it,
yeah, exactly.
gardens outside, and then you don't know anything what you're going to do. And to see all these museums and libraries all in debris, it's really not necessary. That's why I came up with the book, because I said the world needs healing. That is why.
It's the perfect thing for the moment. It's so necessary, and it's one of the best creations, amalgamating poetry with your healing, kind of. So it's a double pronged solution to all the things that people could be going through. Amazing. I really look forward to the book,
Thank you, Smeetha.
and I hope it reaches that bestseller list. I'm sure it will.
Oh, thank you so much.
We are almost nearing the completion of the beautiful session. So I leave it to you whether you want to read a poem or just discuss and, um,
Well, I'd like
whatever.
to just give you a note of thanks, because I want to say thank you, Smeetha. As I said, thank you for giving us the platform. Thank you, V. I hope, I know that you'll grow from strength to strength. More power to you. And look forward to the anthology that we're talking about. Thank you, listeners and audience. And the book is available on Amazon, Healing Elixir, the Havakal Handbook of Angel Therapy, Numerology, and Remedies. So if you resonate with it, please grab a copy.
Thank you very much, G, for joining and making this anniversary, 6th anniversary, so special, because right from day one, we have been together on this journey, and it's not me, it's we. So you're very much it, It's not me, really. It's all the people who are traveling together and making this an amazing empowered women's voice and forum. So it's all because of you, really. Thank you very much, and give my love to Udi. And you have your hands full right now, I'm sure, looking after her. And yeah, I was really worried that you're going to be in a difficult situation for this evening, whether you'll be able to. So I'm so glad you made it in spite of all the constraints that we have to face right now. All of us do. I've locked some of my cats in the other room, and they're screaming.
Uditi remembers meeting you, and she said, I told her about the cats that you have, and she said, can we visit her? I said, let me ask.
So sweet. Yeah. Because you know what they do in here in the session, once they had leapt on me and they leapt back and dropped something. And I had to, remain like this. I mean, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get up at that time. So this time I didn't listen to us. Just go out.
How many do you have now?
No, no numbers. No numbers. Okay.
There is a lovely cat poem I've written. I don't know if there's time.
Read it. Read it. We have time.
Maya. It's my cousin sister's cat, actually. So let me just find it. Just a minute. Oh my God. Yes. Okay. Maya. Maya, you vex me with your whimsical ways. Your unending demands of fish, fresh, clean, deboned, decluttered living room, biased TV shows, meditative healing music, ghazals on Sundays, soft razai made of malmal makes you soft razai made of malmal makes you smile like the Cheshire cat, wearing your bejeweled crown, muttering an incantation secretly. You photobomb my pictures with impeccable grace and panache. You could very well have your own Insta handle. You sit on my spot where I'm most intuitive. As I stare transfixed, you decide to play coy. Mindfulness is a state of being, and there is a ring of truth to that. Maybe in time we can switch places. I forget. You have 9 lives.
Gosh, what? I mean, you're not a cat lover, right? Or you're not.
I'm actually a dog lover, and I don't generally write on. This was on the Poetics Tista review. So they had this theme. So
Okay.
again on pets, like I don't generally write like that, but I this was just the first draft. It was just impulsive the way I would just write about Maya, and I'm sure you can resonate completely with Maya and this particular poem.
Maya is my mother's name, so I resonate. It resonates. I can't tell you how it resonates. And she's the person who imbibed this thing in me about cats. She was a cat lover and a dog lover, so we had all kinds of pets at home. And cats are from her, so it's uncanny. This you should name this poem, Maya, and also read it now. Gosh, it's goosebumps, really. Wow. Thank you for that.
Most welcome, Smeetha. It's been a lovely evening. I've really enjoyed myself. And as I said before, it's been well structured, and you've of course been part of like I've been part of we, you've been part of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So many.
I remember those beautiful pictures we had on 30th September 2016. They're such
It's
gorgeous pictures, right, of the inauguration. Gosh, you were
like
in a
yesterday,
pink,
right?
huh?
It
Seems
seems like
yesterday.
yesterday.
That's what. Time is very,
That's what I said. Time is
time is very confusing at times.
actually.
Seems like yesterday, absolutely. 6 years, kahan se beet gaya, no? Amazing. We were all decked up and you were in pink, resplendent pink. And you're with Mabanu and you're with Rochelle and you're with Sucharita and
Yeah.
amazing that those pictures were
Those were such
really.
lovely days. Yes. We've had great
Mm,
events at V. We have had so many
yeah.
events.
Vinita and Tasir in one frame. I just love that picture of
Yes,
both of
that is a
them.
beautiful picture. I
Beautiful
remember
picture.
Rosha taking a picture of me and she'd send it to me later.
Yeah.
She's candid
Beautiful
picture.
pictures.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
lovely. Getting that. Yeah, that's what I said. That you got the entire community together, and you have a large heart. And as I know you, you're this warm, gregarious girl, and I love what you do. Keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for that, Smeetha. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, G. Thank you guys for joining and making it a very, very special 6th anniversary. Thank you from the heart and wish you all the best with the book.
Thank you so much. Okay.
See you then.
Okay.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye. Love to the.
Okay.
Thanks to everyone who's watched and watching.
Yes. Thank you, audience. Thank you, listeners. Bye-bye.